Ethan Cole hadn't planned on eating out that night. Dinner out meant money, and money was something he measured carefully, like breaths in cold weather. But his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, had aced her spelling test for the 3rd week in a row, and when she looked up at him with that hopeful smile and said, "Can we go somewhere nice?" Just once. He caved. So here they were, tucked into a quiet corner of a modest Italian restaurant on Main Street. Nothing fancy. Warm lights. Slightly chipped plates. The kind of place where families went, not people in tailored suits. Ethan sat across from Lily, watching her twirl spaghetti like it was the most important task in the world. He smiled, tired but content. Being a single dad wasn't easy, especially after Maria passed 3 years ago, but moments like this made the weight feel lighter. "Daddy," Lily said suddenly, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret. "You're smiling." "I'm allowed to smile," he said. "You don't do it enough." That one landed deeper than she knew. Before he could answer, a sharp sound cut through the restaurant. A chair scraped violently across the floor. Ethan looked up. At the table near the window sat a woman in an elegant navy dress. She was beautiful in a quiet, composed way, early 40s, maybe. Her posture had been perfect minutes ago. Now, she was standing halfway up, one hand clawing at her throat, eyes wide with panic. She wasn't breathing. People froze. Her dinner companion, an older man in an expensive suit, stood up, shouting her name, useless with fear. Someone gasped. Someone else screamed for help. A waiter hovered, unsure what to do. Ethan didn't think. His chair hit the floor as he was already moving. "Lily, stay here," he said, voice calm but firm. He crossed the room in seconds. "I know what to do," he told the panicking man, already positioning himself behind the woman. "She's choking." He wrapped his arms around her, hands locking just above her navel. 1, 2. He thrust upward. Nothing. The woman's body trembled. Her face had begun to turn a frightening shade of red. Ethan adjusted his grip and tried again, harder. On the 3rd thrust, a sharp cough tore through the room. A piece of food flew free, clattering onto the table behind them. The woman collapsed forward, gasping, air rushing back into her lungs like a miracle. The entire restaurant exhaled at once. Ethan steadied her, guiding her gently into the chair. "You're okay," he said softly. "Just breathe. Slow." She clutched the table, tears streaming down her cheeks, nodding as she sucked in air. Her eyes met his, dark, intense, grateful beyond words. "Thank you," she whispered hoarsely. You saved my life." Ethan shook his head, already stepping back. Anyone would have done the same. But they hadn't. Applause rippled awkwardly through the room. Someone called him a hero. A waiter offered free dessert. The suited man kept shaking Ethan's hand like he might disappear if he let go. Ethan smiled politely, uncomfortable, and returned to Lily. She was standing on her chair, eyes shining. "You were amazing," she said, hugging him hard. "Like in the movies." He kissed the top of her head. Just something everyone should know how to do. But his hands were still trembling. They finished dinner quietly. Ethan noticed the woman glance over once or twice, as if wanting to say more. But she didn't approach. When she left, a man in a dark suit held the door for her, and a sleek black car waited outside. Ethan didn't think much of it. People with money had different lives. That world didn't touch his. Or so he thought. 3 days later, Ethan was fixing a leaky sink when the doorbell rang. Lily peeked through the window. "Daddy, there's a really shiny car outside." Ethan frowned and wiped his hands on a towel. He opened the door. A tall man in a perfectly pressed charcoal suit stood on the porch. Mid-50s. Silver hair. Calm eyes that had seen power up close for a long time. "Mr. Ethan Cole?" the man asked. "Yes." The man inclined his head respectfully. "My name is Thomas Reed. I'm a driver and personal assistant." Ethan blinked. "Okay. I work for Ms. Alexandra Vale." The name meant nothing. 3 nights ago, Thomas continued, "You saved her life." Ethan's stomach tightened. "She asked me to find you." Lily tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy." Ethan rested a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay." Thomas reached into his jacket, not suddenly, not threatening, and pulled out an envelope. Thick, heavy. Ms. Vale wanted to express her gratitude. Ethan didn't take it. "I didn't do it for money," he said quietly. Thomas smiled, not surprised. "She assumed you'd say that." He gestured toward the car. This isn't payment. It's an invitation. To what? To dinner. At her home. Ethan let out a short laugh. You've got the wrong guy. No, Thomas said gently. We don't. A pause hung in the air. Ms. Vale doesn't forget debts, Thomas added. Especially life-saving ones. Ethan looked down at Lily, then back at the man. I have work. I have a kid. I don't belong in whatever world she lives in. Thomas nodded. She said you'd think that too. He placed the envelope on the small table by the door. Inside is my number. Call if you change your mind. He turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, he said, looking Ethan straight in the eye, I've driven billionaires, presidents, and royalty. He smiled faintly. Very few people would have moved the way you did that night. The car pulled away, silent as a shadow. Ethan closed the door slowly. Lily looked up at him. Daddy, who was that? Ethan stared at the envelope. I think, he said slowly, someone who just changed our lives. And somewhere across the city, Alexandra Vale sat alone in a glass-walled penthouse, staring at the faint bruise on her throat, thinking about the man who hadn't hesitated. Ethan didn't call the number that night. He sat at the kitchen table long after Lily fell asleep, the envelope untouched beside his coffee mug. He turned it over once, twice, as if it might open itself and explain why a billionaire woman cared about a broke single dad who happened to be in the right place at the right time. He'd saved a life. That was it. End of story. But the next morning, the landlord left another voicemail about late rent. Lily's school sent a reminder about the upcoming science trip fee. And the old ache in Ethan's shoulder, an injury from his construction days, flared hard enough to make him wince while tying his boots. By noon, the envelope felt heavier than it had any right to. He called. The black car arrived 2 evenings later. Lily wore her best dress, the blue one with tiny stars, and Ethan borrowed a jacket from a neighbor that fit his shoulders but not his history. As the car glided through gated streets and up a winding hill, Lily pressed her nose to the window. Do people live here? She whispered. Some do, Ethan said, not sure how else to answer. The house wasn't a mansion in the loud sense. No gold gates. No marble lions. It was all glass, wood, and quiet confidence, like money that didn't need to prove itself. Alexandra Vale met them at the door. She looked different without panic. Softer. Her dark hair was pulled back simply, her navy dress replaced by a cream sweater and tailored pants. But her eyes were the same, sharp, observant, alive. You came, she said, surprised and genuinely pleased. Ethan nodded. Thank you for the invitation. She knelt immediately when she saw Lily. And you must be Lily. Lily smiled shyly. My dad saved you. Alexandra's expression flickered, emotion passing through like a wave. Yes, she said. He did. Dinner was normal. That was the strangest part. No long table. No servants hovering. Just 3 plates, candlelight, and soft music playing somewhere unseen. Alexandra asked Lily about school. Lily asked Alexandra if she lived in a castle. Alexandra laughed, really laughed, and said, sometimes it feels like one. Ethan watched closely, waiting for the catch. It came after dessert. Alexandra asked Lily if she'd like to see the koi pond outside. When Lily left with Thomas, Alexandra's driver, the room shifted. I didn't invite you here to repay you, Alexandra said, folding her hands. I invited you because you reminded me of something I lost. Ethan stayed quiet. 3 years ago, she continued, I stopped believing people acted without expecting something in return. He thought of Maria, of hospital bills, of nights spent doing the math over and over. I didn't expect anything, he said. I know, Alexandra replied softly. That's why this matters. She stood and walked to the window. I built an empire by assuming the worst. It worked, but it also left me very alone. She turned back to him. I had you investigated. Ethan stiffened. I had to, she said quickly. For safety. What I found was a man who lost his wife, raised his daughter alone, turned down shortcuts, and still showed up for strangers. Silence stretched. I want to help you, she said. Not with charity. With opportunity. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a job offer. Operations coordinator. Training included. Salary that made Ethan's breath catch. I don't have a degree, he said. You have judgment, she replied. And courage. I can teach the rest. Ethan closed the folder slowly. And the catch. Alexandra met his eyes. You'd be in my world. He thought of Lily. Stability. Health insurance. A future not measured in overdue notices. I need time.